Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, and we're going to kick off the show by talking about something, a couple of items. Yesterday we mentioned the 6 soldiers who died in Afghanistan, and we're finding out a little bit more. We'll address that in a second, but also, of course, the budget deal. The budget deal, the agreement reached by the Democrats and Republicans, which has already been passed by the House and will be voted on by the Senate and passed by the Senate, really sticks it to military veterans. And joining us right now is our friend Major General Paul Vallely, and he, of course, is chairman of Stand Up America. And General, always great to talk to you, my friend. Merry Christmas to you and your lovely wife, and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you, Steve, and all your staff there at the radio show. We always like doing your show anytime we can.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, so, you know, to me, it is just outrageous that things that could have been cut and should have been cut, and maybe even things that I can't even think of, were not cut. But cost of living increases for military families, veterans' families, and veterans themselves will be cut in this budget deal, and I just don't understand it.
Well, I don't either, Steve. It is atrocious. And, you know, somebody told me yesterday, Steve, it's like we're living in the Twilight Zone in Washington, D.C. What is wrong with these people with all the billions of dollars of waste in the government, in the State Department, and HUD? You look across the board, and all the agencies that are just burning money like mad, Homeland Security, and yet they want to take on the military and the retired military. I mean, this is a travesty of justice. What is Paul Ryan doing? Patty Murray, Reed, the vast majority of them have never served in the military, do not understand what military families go through. I mean, someone's got to finally stand up, Steve, and put this down. This is just terrible.
Well, of course, it's probably not going to happen. And, you know, you travel not only the world, but the country, and you meet with veterans, and you meet with their families, and you visit the disabled and the wounded. What's the real feel, if you will, effect of these cuts? What are they going to be?
Well, if there's cuts in any kind of retirement planning, any type of medical, any type of services that our armed forces veterans and active duty people should be given, to even bring them up on the radar screen is, to me, I mean, it's just horrible. Why would they even do that when there's billions of dollars of waste throughout all the other government agencies, and they won't address most of those? I mean, it's, again, they must be in the Twilight Zone, Steve. I can't figure out any other reason. It just has no logic to it.
No, it is scary. Let's move on a little bit to a tragedy yesterday, the biggest loss of life in Afghanistan amongst American troops in many, many months. And it was a Black Hawk that went down. All kinds of reports at first saying that all of them died in the crash, and then saying that there was one survivor and the others might have been involved when they crashed in a firefight and got killed that way. I mean, this is, I don't know. I think it all stems back, either way you look at it, I think it could all come back to our rules of engagement somehow, no?
Well, many of these things do, especially now and in the last few years, have gone to these restrictive rules of engagement. Lone Survivor's out now that everybody should read and see the movie, because that is one great example of the Navy SEALs that went down because of the restrictive rules of engagement. But the firefights, what the helicopters can fire at, what they can't. But it just goes to show you how flawed our strategy is in the Middle East. And I've said this for 10 years now. It's always been the wrong strategy we've used to take out the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. It's always been unconventional, and we should have fought it that way. But we still have these convoys going out. We have the helicopters going out on observation fights. I mean, it is time to really look at this whole forward strategy, and I'd pull everybody out of the Middle East.
Well, when you say pull everybody, you mean out of Afghanistan and Iraq?
The entire Middle East, everywhere. I'd pull them out.
Okay, well, what does that mean for, I was going to ask you next, General. We're talking to Major General Paul Vallely, chairman of Stand Up America here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Of course, a region you've been to so many times and we've talked about for so many months, and that is Syria. I don't even know what our policy is, but I know the horror stories about the rebels. Again, I know there's distinction to be made between the rebels, but what the rebels are doing is just, very much inhumane. And where are we in our policy? And does your call for getting everyone out of the Middle East include our efforts in Syria?
Well, we really don't have any efforts in Syria, Steve. We had sent some arms and equipment into a Qatar Muslim Brotherhood-backed outfit called the Syrian National Council, and I was in Aleppo 2 months ago meeting with the true Free Syrian Army, who we give nothing to, and they command 60 to 70,000 troops. So again, we're behind the wrong people, just like we were in Egypt, and this administration is absolutely inept at what's going on. And when I say pull out of the Middle East, that means pulling all of our bases out of insecure areas out of the Middle East and use what we call the lily pad strategy, where based on good intelligence, if there's a threat to the United States, we go in and hit them, knock them out, and we come back home. But this idea of nation building and putting all of these bases in has been ludicrous, and I've been against it right from the beginning. Always saying this is an unconventional war to be fought with special ops, air power, just did like we did in the fall of 2001 in Afghanistan.
I see that in Egypt, Morsi has now been charged with various charges. I also see that the Egyptian military is now getting monies from Russia. And I guess none of this should surprise us. I think we made our bed, or the Obama administration made our bed, when we decided to back Morsi in the first place, support Morsi after his overthrow, and then insist that the Muslim Brotherhood be kept in the process, and then withdraw financial support from the Egyptian military.
Well, that's right. I was just over there a month and a half ago and met with General el-Sisi and his staff, and I'm in touch with him on a weekly basis. But we have no confidence, no respect from anybody anymore, because we always back the wrong people now. And when we backed the Muslim Brotherhood against 33 million Egyptians that stood up that did not want one-man rule government by Morsi, then I found out from an intelligence report yesterday, Steve, what set the balance and what tripped it over there, beside the civil unrest that was coming, that Morsi had put out a hit on General el-Sisi. And so that's when they decided to pull the plug, along with trying to prevent the civil unrest. We also found out yesterday that Morsi was really involved in the attack on Benghazi with the Muslim Brotherhood and in concert with Iran. So more to come out on this Benghazi thing as well. But this Morsi is a bad guy, evil guy. He deserves to be put in prison for the rest of his life, and General el-Sisi and the new government will ensure that.
And if true about Benghazi and the connection, it might explain a whole lot about why the administration wanted to blame it on a movie in the first place.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad, Steve.
Well, General, it's always good to talk to you. Unfortunately, I wish the news was better on all fronts. Again, nothing but the best to you and your lovely wife, and we'll speak to you probably in the new year.
Thank you, Steve. Look forward to it.
Thank you, General Paul. YouTube, General Paul E. Vallely, ladies and gentlemen, chairman of Stand Up America, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We're also going to talk later in the show to Babette Maxwell, founder of Military Spouse Magazine, and we'll talk to her about the direct effect on so many military families with these budget cuts. It's just outrageous that that's where they decided to cut. It's unfathomable with what our military men and women have been through so recently. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk to Glenn Kessler, ladies and gentlemen, author of The Fact Checker at the Washington Post. He is going to bring us the top Pinocchios, the biggest Pinocchios of 2013, and a guy named, Barack Obama. He's in like 3 of the top 5. How could that be? On the Steve Malzberg Show, right here on Newsmax TV and radio.